What is up, fan addicts, fan guy addicts? It's your boy, Fan Guy, coming back to you from a new location. As you can see, we had to suspend operations for a little while we relocated. We are, however, back in West Texas. Going to be coming to you from Amarillo. And so for our comeback episode, it seemed only appropriate that we go ahead and um, review the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So if you paid attention to my list of my favorite games of all time, you would have seen that Final Fantasy VII was at the very top of the list. It was my number one all-time favorite game that I've ever played, was the original Final Fantasy VII. And it still is. The remake has not overtaken that spot on my list. However, I do think I have some thoughts on the remake, especially given the fact that I am such a huge fan of the first one. So, I'm just going to give some, a few minutes of thoughts about the remake. I just finished it today. It took me approximately 30 hours to do. I can't get a real accurate count because I fell asleep during one of my sessions playing, and so I kind of lost track of the time, and I had a lot of hours added onto my game playthrough that weren't actual game time. So I'm estimating the game took me between 25 and 32 hours. I know that's a big span, but that's my best guess. So off top, for those of you who are fans of the original and don't know much about the remake yet, I'm going to start by saying it is not a remake of the full game. Now, I actually did not know this when I bought it. I'm not upset about it, but I didn't know that it wasn't the full game. So just a heads up, it is only the Midgar or beginning section of Final Fantasy VII. Now, they added a ton of content, obviously. On the original Final Fantasy VII, you could get through the Midgar section in probably, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 hours. And this game added, it's at least 20, 25, 30 hours. So they added quite a bit of content. There is a lot of nostalgia there for people who love the original game. There is, a lot of similar scenes and a lot of recreations that they did pretty good. They added a ton of new content, a lot of new characters, not playable main characters, but a lot of new NPCs that weren't available before. So my immediate thoughts on this game. Okay, also important to note, it is not a turn-based game like Final Fantasy VII was. This is a little bit more like the more recent Final Fantasy that, man, I lose track of the numbers. The one where they start out pushing the car to Stand By Me. It's very similar play style of that one. Where you kind of just control one character. It's a little bit more hack and slashy. You can stop or slow time to issue commands to your other units and special commands to your played character, and you can switch between the characters to utilize their different abilities at different times. And quite frankly, it's a good idea to don't let yourself get too lazy while you're playing the remake. I definitely let myself get lazy a few times, but learning to use the different characters and their strengths is going to make a lot of the battles way easier because certain characters just excel at them. So, immediate thoughts. So I'm going to say they did a pretty good job with it. I think I would be happier if I knew that the next episodes were coming a little sooner. Word on the street is it's going to be a few years before they even, let out the next part of the game. And, the story of Final Fantasy VII is epic. So, I definitely am already looking forward to the next installment. So, obviously, I didn't dislike this game as well as I did beat it. So, I did spend some time and put, a full day of my life into actually getting through this game. So, off the top of my head, the combat system. So I'm a turn-based. I love turn-based RPGs. So I was a little disappointed with the combat system when I first picked up the game. Just that they had gone away from turn-based. But as I started playing a little more, and because I was familiar with the last Final Fantasy that also had that combat system, it wasn't too bad. The story, they did do good job sticking to the original primarily the high points, the highlights, though there is a lot of new and different things that they've added that I'm not going to get to too much detail on just to avoid some spoilers. But there are definitely some concepts that are going to be new to even returning Final Fantasy VII players. So, go into the game knowing that there's going to be a mix of both old and new stuff that they're doing with with this game, and that the combat's not turn-based, and that it is just the Midgar section. But realistically, I mean, they really did do a good job with this game. I had a good time playing it. I enjoyed it from front to back. The combat's intuitive. I wish it was longer. I do wish it was longer. I don't feel like there was enough time to level up all of my materia to where I wanted it to be. But they definitely did. I'm going to say they did justice to Final Fantasy VII, at least to the Midgar section of it. Again, I wish it was longer. I wish there was more to it. But they did do a very good job recreating the Midgar section. Downsides, I think some of the fights could have been a little harder. Particularly maybe even the last fight I thought was a little easy. Considering some of the fights earlier in the game I thought were significantly harder. So, and I don't think there's enough stuff to spend your gil on, your gold. Because I ended the game with quite a bit. I knew that the last place to spend it makes it fairly obvious where the last place you're going to be able to spend it is. So heads up, you'll know. And I had a ton. I had like 100,000. So I just blew it all on consumables that I didn't even use. So I don't, I definitely think that, there is a hard mode that I haven't tried yet. So I'm sure that that's going to add some degree of difficulty to the game and maybe even give it a little replay value. There are some new cool enemies and characters that pop up. And overall, I'm going to give this game, on a scale of 10, I'm going to give it an 8. I'm going to give it an 8 because it's a great game. But I don't know. It's not a perfect game. And there are areas that they could have improved it. So, would I recommend this game? Yes, I would recommend this game, especially if you were a fan of the original Final Fantasy VII. However, the good news for you guys who haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII is that this game, I still think is going to be playable and enjoyable for people who are getting into this universe for maybe even the first time or playing their first Final Fantasy VII game. The game does feel complete, even though it's only the Midgar section. It does feel like somewhat of a complete game, and that there is a clear beginning, middle, and end. And I definitely think that if you are a fan of RPGs and you enjoyed the last Final Fantasy installment, you will enjoy this game, even if you didn't play the original. If you did play the original, I think you're going to enjoy it a little more because the nostalgia is definitely real at times, and some scenes they really did recreate amazingly. So, my verdict is definitely check it out if you enjoy Final Fantasy series and you enjoyed Final Fantasy VII. 100% this is a game you want to play. If you aren't familiar with Final Fantasy VII or the Final Fantasy series, I still do think this is a game you will enjoy, though go into it with somewhat tempered expectations. Needless to say, I am very excited about the next installment, which is still a few years away, but it should be a good time. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend this game. Again, I'm going to give it a roughly an 8 out of 10, as I did enjoy the hell out of this game. So that's Fanguy's verdict on this one. 8 out of 10 Final Fantasy VII Remake. Check it out. Drop a like in the comments to let your boy know you're watching things. It's nice to be back with y'all, and I'm going to have tons of new content coming out in the near future. Much love, and I will see y'all on the flip.